Dependency theory seeks to analyse existing unequal relationships between developed countries, which are called core countries, and undeveloped countries, which are called periphery countries. Periphery countries are stuck in a cycle that is hard to overcome. They rely on exports of raw materials to be sold to core countries. These materials are then processed and sold back to the periphery countries at a much higher price. So there is a one-sided international division of labour. This enforces a hierarchy of nations and has created a class division. André Gonda-Frank is one of the leading dependency theorists, and The Economist argued that colonialism and neo-colonialism have created an unequal structure between the least developed countries and wealthy countries. Frank argues that underdevelopment is a large part of the historical product of the past and plays an essential part of the capitalist system. Dependency theory stresses that periphery countries are exploited of their resources and manufactured goods and therefore continue to remain stagnant, whereas core countries are often industrialized and receive large portions of the world's wealth, whereas periphery countries are thought of as underdeveloped, so receive an unequal amount of the world's wealth. Part of the historical exploitation is slavery. Slavery has benefited both the slave traders and plantation owners with high profits in the 18th century. This capital was then used to invest in wealthier nations' industrial revolution and consequently helped to grow the industrial development. Colonialism, according to Paul Harrison, allowed first world countries to exploit their colonies of cheap food, raw resources and labour. Today, periphery countries have taken loans from core countries in order to stay afloat. However, with the interest as well as the debt, this prevents periphery countries from investing resources into their own country, which ultimately continues in the rigorous cycle of underdevelopment. Dependency theory's relevance to human rights and social justice issues are that, similarly to neorealists, both theories stress the importance of absolute gains of wealth, which promotes poverty, inequality, and ultimately limits the right to progression. Some of the pros of the theory are that it can be used to study countries on a macro level, taking into consideration the economic and political factors. It also helps us to get a clear understanding of economic development in a broader sense, as well as pointing out the weaknesses of development and at the same time identifying the symptoms and effects of underdevelopment. Some of the disadvantages of the theory are that it fails to take into consideration individual factors of countries, such as culture and historical context. It has also been criticised for not having enough empirical evidence to back up the theory itself. There has also been some criticism of failing to offer more insight, analysis and weight of the idea of domestic and international politics as an explanation for conditions within a state, such as corruption,